Hello, my name is Ben,
And my name's Josh.
and welcome back to FPL Graduates, and welcome back to another video where we're going to be going into our transfer targets for this week, letting you know who is on fire and who you should be bringing in to your FPL teams. Without further ado, let's get straight into it.
Okay, then to kick off the video, we're going to be talking about Rico Lewis, coming in at 4.7 million at the time of recording. He's been pretty decent so far this season in FPL, but also for Manchester City in the Champions League. If you didn't see when they played Bratislava in the Champions League this week, he picked up an assist, created 3 big chances and accumulated over 1.5 expected goal involvement in that game. Obviously, the opponents probably got to be taken into consideration, but it just shows the attacking threat that he can have in this Manchester City system. What's your thoughts on him, Ben? Obviously, at that price point to get into the City defence, it's almost like a no-brainer in itself, right?
Yeah, he presents fantastic value going into that City defence. I think as soon as he gets above that 5 million bracket, you're going to be starting to have that conversation of is he worth it, is he not? But if you can get him in at 4.7 million, I think it's a pretty no-brainer decision. Like, he could very well get benched against Fulham. Like, let's not sort of beat around the bush there, but he will play 2 of the next 3. I can almost guarantee it. Pep's given him a lot of praise at the moment as well, so I anticipate a lot of starts from him going forwards, and he's performing to the level that you'd expect from Manchester City players. So it's not like he's sort of not sort of reaching the levels we expect. He's performing to the stats and everything every single week. So I anticipate he's going to be a good pick going into the next few game weeks. Okay, so moving on next to another Manchester City defender, Josko Gvardiol is starting to produce a little bit more goal involvement, and I pinpointed that in our Patreon ahead of that Rodri injury. I said, look, I think based on the players that Pep has at his disposal, Gvardiol will get a lot more attacking threat, and within a couple of game weeks, he's already got a goal, and what a finish it was as well. Of course, he is that extra bit of money to bring in, but for the price tag at 5.9 million, he doesn't actually present too bad value, does he, Josh?
Yeah, I agree. I think 5.9 is pretty cheap for Gavardio, especially if we're going to see him getting forward a lot more. Obviously, we always mention about the back end of last season and him getting really far forward. Even if it's half of that, I think he's still valued at 6 million is great. Like you say, fixtures are really, really good as well. And obviously he got taken off a little bit earlier. He got taken off around the 70th, 75th minute against Bratislava in midweek. So not the full 90 for him, which is really good for owners. I'd expect Gavardio to start against Fulham. So yeah, you're obviously paying that bit more money as well for those more secure starts, I'd say, at the moment. Nathan Ake is still out injured, so there's no one who's really going to threat Gavardio for that position. Obviously, Rico Lewis could play there, but I think if Gavardio's fit, he'll just be starting left back going forwards. Okay then, so next up is a cheaper option at 4.4 million. It's Ryan Ait-Nouri. Scored against Liverpool, which is quite surprising to be fair, but should it be surprising when he's been so good for so many seasons now at getting those attacking returns for Wolves? Already this season, 2 attacking returns, and when you look at Wolves' fixtures, that is actually really impressive because they've faced such a hard run of games so far this season. The expected data, I'd say it's not been great. The chance against Liverpool was a massive factor in that XG being so high, so that's something to take into account. But he has been involved in 4 big chances already this season, whether that be creating or scoring. What's your thoughts on him, Ben? The fixtures aren't as bad as what they were, and they're going to start breaking out into a nicer run.
Yeah, I think you keep an eye on him for now. Like 4.4 million, that presents really, really good value because everyone's seen him as a 4.5 up to really a £5 million defender at points with the returns that he's getting. So he does present really, really good value. And the fixtures coming up, I mean, we saw it last season against Brentford, the way that he sort of was unlucky sort of not to come away with a haul, and he did end up injured. But yeah, there's potential there for Halls, and he's proved it last season in particular, how explosive he can really be. Okay, so next up we've got another cheap defensive option. It is Leif Davis of Ipswich. The fixtures have turned for them now and they look much better. For me personally, I'll definitely be look at getting him in now, with the sort of XGI looking decent across the board. That Everton at home fixture looking seriously tasty for some potential attacking returns. The big chance involvement has been there as well. Josh, you're one of those who had Leif Davis from the start. I'm assuming you'll retain him, right?
Yeah, I think he's a fantastic option going forwards. I don't have him currently. I didn't go with him on my wild card, but he's someone that I'm definitely considering if I need to bring in defender. like you say, the big chance involvement is there. He created one against Aston Villa at the weekend, was unlucky not to get an assist for that. He's on a lot of set pieces, if not all of them, when they're like in-swinging free kicks, corners, etc. So yeah, for me, he's a fantastic option. The expected goals against for Ipswich looks terrible on paper at nearly 12 expected goals against, but you've got to bear in mind they did face City and Liverpool in their opening 2 games this season. I personally am being quite impressed with that Ipswich defence so far this season. Thought against Villa they did pretty well, barring a couple of individual errors to stem them from scoring. So yeah, for me, probably my favourite £4.5 million defender at the moment. Okay, then so we're going to move into the midfielders now. We're going to start off with Brennan Johnson, 6.4 million, obviously coming off the back of a 11-point haul against Manchester United at Old Trafford. I think he's a fantastic option. We obviously were looking at him pre-season. His minutes didn't look so secure going into it. Obviously, with a few injuries now in the attacking line, that does look a little bit more promising for Johnson owners. XG at 2.4. I know obviously the United goal was probably quite a high XG chance, but even without that, he's producing decent numbers going forwards. 4 returns in the opening 5 games so far. He seems like he's on a bit of a purple patch, Ben.
Yeah, definitely, and one that I think you should jump on because he's, that purple patch. He's going to be a form player. Like he's going to go in and out of form, and he's going to get those goals all in one bundle. And you almost sort of see slight similarities to Heung-min Son when he was sort of coming up at Spurs and sort of establishing himself in the Premier League. So at that price point, 6.4, it presents really good value again, especially over those next 2 fixtures. Brighton not had the best defensive record to start the season. West Ham at home is a really good fixture as well for them. So I anticipate hopefully a couple more returns. Like he's been overperforming just slightly, but I do think the returns are there. It's a shame he's not sort of as explosive, but the returns are consistent. Okay, so next up we're going to talk about Dwight McNeil, who came off a 15-point haul last game week, which was absolutely ridiculous. Again, the fixtures for Everton look really good, which really appeal to myself, especially on potentially bringing in McNeil. The goals and assists, he scored. He's maybe overperformed just slightly on the goals, but the assist potential looks fantastic. I don't think you can expect a 15-point haul every week. I think he's going to be sort of quite consistent in returns. I wouldn't expect a ceiling as high as that going forwards. The big chance involvements are there as well. So he does look to be a fantastic option for getting those assist points. Josh, what are your thoughts on McNeil?
Yeah, I think for the price, he does provide good value at 5.5. I don't think you can complain at that. There's not too many consistent options at that price at the moment, and I think he does provide that. He provides that consistency. He's going to play pretty much 90 minutes every single week. His assist threat is through the roof, which is crazy to say. It's like one of the highest expected assists so far this season. Obviously, the goal threat, as we've talked about in WhatsApp chats and going forwards, I personally don't think it's quite there for him, which it isn't in the data, but he just seems to be scoring worldies every week, so what do I know? Dwight McNeil's got a banger in him. So yeah, for me, at that price, with those fixtures, I don't think you can go wrong. Okay then, so another differential at that £5.5 million price tag in the midfield. We've got Steffi Mavididi from Leicester. Obviously they had a great performance at the Emirates, unlucky not to get anything from that at the weekend. The fixtures now for Leicester probably are the best in the league. Bournemouth at home, Southampton away, Forest at home in their next 3. 5.3 million for Mavididi, so you're saving yourself quite a bit of money. He's already got 2 goals so far this season as well in relatively difficult fixtures for Leicester so far. For me, I think he's a decent option if you're looking into that Leicester team. Obviously, Ben, you have Vardy as well. What's your thoughts on that sort of Leicester team at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, in my scenario, I probably wouldn't go for him because I just wouldn't trust a double up in attack in the Leicester attack. And I think you've got to be wary of that as well, even if you don't have Vardy, to sort of be aware that that Leicester team doesn't have the best quality going forwards, and there's been a couple of decent performances, yes, but the XG stats to back that up haven't really sort of done them too many favours. So you've just got to be wary of that. Like Mavidi's stats, they don't look too bad, but I do think there are better options for just 0.2 million more. So if you can find the budget to go a little bit higher, then I probably would. But if you're constrained by budget, by all means, I don't think he's a bad option at all. Okay, so next up, we're going to be talking about Phil Foden, another player who's really been performing in the Champions League this week. He looked absolutely electric, albeit against a bit of a lesser opposition. We're thinking it could now be time for Phil Foden to get some more minutes in the tank with this great run of fixtures coming up. I think at 9.2 million, you can almost sort of take that risk now. And you know what? go for it because he is very low owned. He does we do know from previous seasons he can produce the XG and the XA to back it up. We haven't obviously seen that so far this season, but to get on the bandwagon of Phil Foden early could be key here to sort of boosting your rank right up.
Yeah, that 5% ownership with those 3 green fixtures coming up, it just looks so enticing for owners. I think there's a good chance he does start against Fulham this weekend. He came off early as well, a little bit earlier than I think Gvardiol in that game, which is really good news for anyone who's looking to bring him in. Obviously, price point wise, it's a good price point. He's only just over $1 million more than someone like a Luis Diaz, who you'd probably look to move off maybe after this week. So if you were willing to do that a week earlier, obviously Luis Diaz started in the Champions League midweek. For me, I think this is the option that I would go to. And it's one of those ones where we've missed out on Cole Palmer points maybe last week. This is the next sort of potential Cole Palmer haul that we could be looking at. Okay then, so we're going to talk about another forward option now. So we're going into a sort of a cheap area, 5.5 million. You can't really pick too many forwards up at this price point, but we're going with Liam Delap. Obviously coming off his brace against Villa at the weekend, he looked really sharp in that game. He's got 3 goals so far this season, which for an Ipswich Town forward is pretty good going so far. The expected data is not quite matching the output, that's for sure. So it's maybe something to sort of maybe hedge your bets on, but he is getting involved in big chances. He's had 5 so far this season, and obviously he's scored 3 of them. So decent finisher you could put that down to, but I wouldn't say we've got a massive sample size of Liam Delap so far this season. What's your thoughts, Ben? If you just had that 5.5 million, you couldn't stretch to like a Chris Wood or whatever, would you consider him?
Yeah, I'd definitely consider him. I think he is probably up there with like the Jamie Vardys, etc. of the world, just because he provides good value and he's scoring the goals at the moment. Like, despite what the stats say, he looks in a good vein of form, and on the eye test, he definitely passes for me. So I'd potentially look at bringing him in. Sort of, if he'd got those 2 goals sort of a couple of weeks earlier, everyone would have already been on him, and it'd be sort of a non-conversation almost because he'd be at sort of 15% ownership. So yeah, I do quite like him. The stats obviously sort of suggest that he's overperforming a bit, but again, I highlight that Everton at home game. I think it's one you just got to keep an eye on for Ipswich, because there could be a couple of players there that come away with a haul. Okay, and to finish it off, we've got Dominic Solanke of Spurs. Since he's come back in from his injury, he's looked fantastic. He's got 2 goals, an XG of 3.45, which is really good. And the number of big chance involvements is crazy as well. 8 of them so far. I think he's sort of due a mega haul coming at any moment now. Like, I think it's going to happen, and as soon as that happens, that ownership's going to shoot right up. A lot of players in FPL sort of moving off those sort of £8 million strikers like Isak. I think this is the best alternative that you're going to get here. Josh, thoughts on Solanke? He's got to be sort of in contention to coming into your team, right?
Yeah, 100%. He was at 30-40% owned when the game started, and he only came out of teams due to that injury. So yeah, for me, he's a fantastic option. Fits that Spurs system like a glove. And like you say, the big chances have been there. Probably owners have been quite unlucky to only get the 2 goals so far this season from him. Yeah, I think he had three on its own against United. So some really good opportunities for him so far for Spurs, and I think they're only going to be more in these upcoming fixtures. Brighton away, as we sort of discussed earlier, they're definitely not the best defence in the league. Obviously, Chelsea sort of showed them that. If they're going to play that sort of high line with Webster and Dunk again against this Spurs team, I can only see it happening again. Okay then, so that wraps up our transfer targets for the week. Let us know who you're targeting in the comments down below.
Yeah, and as always, please remember to like, comment and subscribe to the FPL Graduates. I've been Ben.
I've been Josh.
And we'll see you guys
later. Have a good game week, everyone.
So you may rise, but you'll never make me wanna stick